Okay, so that's had about 10 minutes actually just to settle down now. What we're left with is all the oil going into those recesses. Whoops. All the oil going into those recesses and picking up all that detail of the boards, the hinges, all the detail around the door and on those ends as well, which is exactly what we want. Now, hopefully, with the oil coming out of the oil paint onto the paper towel, it's left it with a fairly sort of matte finish. It's not shiny, it's satin. It's not glossy, it's not looking oily, which is what we want. Okay, which means that hopefully it hasn't deposited a lot of the oil out of the paint onto the actual model, which is going to make the next job a little bit easier, and it means it's going to take a lot less time to dry, which is what we want. So now the job is to come across and take it back, just knock it back, just knock back a lot of that oil. Now it looks pretty dark and dingy, pretty grimy. Now to do that, we're just using enamel thinners. Again, it's just generic enamel thinners. Okay, we've got a little bit in our container here. A couple of ways you can do it. You can use the brush, come into some of those areas. You really want to take it off the high type areas now. So what we're doing again is we're creating the shadow and the depth. Now what we want to do is try and create a little bit of highlight and prepare the side of the body for the dry brushing, which is going to come next. So with just a bit of that enamel thinners on the brush, just coming into the top parts now, and we're just knocking it back, and then we're wiping it off. A bit more enamel thinners onto that bit there, and we're taking it off. Okay, not all of it, but we're just trying to lessen the effect now. We're just trying to remove it so that we're leaving some there. You can see here's a good example. There's a big bit of dark grime down there, which is good. The other way you can do it too, and this is working a little bit better, just a cotton tip in the same solution. It just seems to pick up a bit more than the brush does. The brush tends to move it around, cotton tip tends to eliminate it, remove it completely where you want it, particularly on larger areas. So just lightly, you don't need to scrub or anything like that, just light pressure, and use your cotton tip and just draw that down. Again, we're working in a vertical pattern. Once again, it just looks more natural. We'll take a bit out of there. We don't want to clean the whole thing, so just keep plugging away at it just until you're happy with the look you've got. But remember, we want a lot of that grime to stay in those recesses. So I'm reasonably happy with that now for that side. A little bit dirty, we don't want to obscure all that lettering, but we do also want to make sure that it's covered as part of the weathering as well. But we'll leave the bottom side of it, the bottom areas, dirtier than most. So that's the effect we're going for. Come around, we'll do the ends. You can see, hopefully, that once again that capillary action I keep talking about. It's just the flow of that agent going straight into all those nooks and crannies, and you don't have to push the paint or the oil or the thinners or whatever it is along those lines. It just capillary takes it there on its own. It just spreads on its own volition. So I'm taking off the oil on the high boards, but leaving it in the lower areas. We'll pick up some of that detail again. If we come down on the vertical strokes, we can give it some nice little subtle rain marks. Now there's a small louvered vent there. Okay, I'm going to leave the dirt under that vent, and that's what you need to look for, is things like that. Again, I'm not sure what this is, but this little bit that's sticking out here, same thing. We're just going to leave the dirt and grime to hang around that as well. Let's make sure we get all the sides. This one we cleaned up before, it's not too bad. And we'll come back to the last part, the last end, a bit more of our solution. So you can see, big difference here. We're taking that grime back. And get it off the top there. That part that's going to actually sit up close to the roof, you know, it'll still weather, but probably not to the same extent. cotton tip gets too dirty, you're just going to be pushing around more of the same dirt. So this time we're trying to eliminate that. So I'll take some of that off down through there, but we'll leave some of it under that vent. If you take too much off and you're not happy, that's fine. Give it another hit with the oils. There's no wrong way with this, really. It's just you remove it or add it to get the effect you want, to get what you're happy with. But we'll try and leave it, and it's naturally going to sit in the corners of those boards that are coming down, those uprights, and into those corners and down the bottom and under that vent, you know. So that's what we're going for. Okay, I'm happy with that. We're going to leave that to dry. Another 5 or so minutes, and we can come back and go on with the next stage, which is dry brushing. When we go through the dry brushing stage, whoopsie, dropping it all over the place, that's where we're actually going to pick up a lot of the highlights, and it's very important in this stage not to overdo things. Less is more with this one. You can have several goes at it lightly and get a good effect, or you can come in heavy-handed and wreck all the hard work that you've done so far. So yeah, less is definitely more with the dry brushing step. All right.